When Kathy was sharing her idea of stones and iron with me for this March demo, I was talking about a demo I saw at the 2014 Abana conference by Brett Moten, where he used a piece of copper tubing in steel to hold a stone. And I've always wanted to try that, and I haven't seen it done since then. And so this is going to be an experiment, and we'll see what happens. So I've sketched out a picture of a flower on this piece of 1/8 inch plate, and I've drilled a hole in it with a step drill. And I measured the outside diameter of this copper pipe, which I believe is 1 inch copper pipe, and that just happened to line up nicely with one of the steps. And then I drilled the halfway into the thickness of this plate the next step, so it leaves a wider diameter on one side than it does on the other, and that's going to allow us to capture that piece of copper tubing. So we'll insert it from this side, and I'll cut a smaller piece when I actually do this, and then this end will get flared out and fill in that larger diameter area and hopefully lock it in place. And then on the other side, countersink this slightly, and then we'll flare that out, and that will help it lock in place, and will accept the stone a little easier. So I've got some stones here to pick from, and we'll just find one that's roughly fits the size. These might be a little bit small, but we'll find something that works nicely and be a nice accent for this flower. Because I want that back side where I flare out the tubing to hold well all around, I want the tubing to be even. And my tubing cutter comes close, but it doesn't work all that great. So I just filed one side down until I got the high side out, and we're pretty even now. Well, there's a rough cutout.
Well, the profile is ground, and we'll do a little forging on it now before we set the copper setting.
For forging on the flower, I'll thin out these edges and take those down a little, and then I'm just going to put in some chisel lines in here just to give it some veins. Nothing real fancy. Something like that. My curved chisel is a little too curved for this, and I don't want to take time to make a new one right now. So I'm going to use a smaller one. I think I can get the curve in that I want. Heat it up. A couple more. These two petals, and then chase in the others a little bit more.
got the vanes cut in, and now we'll heat it up, and I'll taper those edges a little. Use a fairly small cross beam for this, and I'm going to stay away from that center hole I drilled, because I don't want to change that diameter. Up again and take that off. So as I was forging that, I was thinking, did I put the vanes on the right side? And yes, I did. The smaller diameter is on this side, and the larger diameter is on the back, and that's where we're going to capture that copper tubing. For the countersink on the front, I don't have a lot of thickness to work with, so I'm going to hand file that in to make sure I don't over drill that and make me start over. So I'm right-handed and I'm trying to file left-handed so that I don't block the camera. I guess I could move the camera. Where are you? There you are. There's the back side, and there's the front. So I did a real quick wire brush on this, and fitting our tubing in, it's much looser than it was before. So probably filed a little too much. So I'm try to drift open that tubing and expand that just enough to try to make this a tighter fit.
A little bit more. This drift I just tapped my hand from something else. It needs to go somewhere.
Could have annealed this tubing first. I may need to do that. And that's getting pretty close, actually. Just a little bit more. I will anneal it before I flare it out, though. Can go some more. I don't have any pipe the right diameter, so I found some 3/8 square bar and I'm going to bend up a brick to a little bit. Use that for my bolster. Okay, we got a bolster, and I had also annealed this copper tubing, and I put it back in as kind of a tighter fit, so I brushed it just lightly with by hand with a wire brush, and it's a nice fit now. That's about perfect. So set that on there. That's all down. And I'm going to use a ball peen hammer, the peen end, to flare that out. It seemed to be the right size, and that way I don't have to go make a tool. And I'm just going to tap on this. I'll use the leather mallet. It's getting there. So that is definitely flared out. So now I think I'll take a small ball peen and just go around the edges and make sure that's captured well, and then we'll file off the excess. That is tight. I could have put a finish on this before I set that. They were going to be different colors, so just an option next time. So I'll have to grind this down a little bit. Let's figure out what kind of rocks we're going to put in there. Do one or two, or That looks about the biggest one. So that could go in there. It's got some sloping sides, so the copper can wrap around and capture that. A little bit on the back here too. Might stick out on those other two sides. I like how the blue one fits. I think I'll go with it. So the height of this rock, 0.43. So I think we So I haven't planned for a stem on this. So I'm going to have to put something on the back to capture the back side of the rock. And then we can set our stone in, folding the copper edges over. So let's see what we can come up with for that. So while the stem is heating up, I'm going to try to flare out this other end a little bit and not push out what I already, I'm going to do what I already did. Nice flare on that. Cut loose. Reset that. Okay, bolster's resized. So you can reset this to the back. Like I said, this is an experiment. Still big enough. Let's try it back down. It's a bit of an iterative process. That seems to be pretty good. I have a feeling we could do that again after we get the stone put in there. So let's do that for now so we don't thin it out too much. It's already missing. I've marked out, well, I've placed a stone where I like it, and I positioned it to cover over this solid piece that is down here. That's part of the stem. So, and then I put some Sharpie marks right in here where I'm going to file those little contours and reduce the amount of copper there. I don't need all of that. Okay, I'm going to attempt to set this stone in there, and remember I said in the beginning, this is an experiment. So definitely tell it's work hardening. I don't know how I'm going to get these points to come in, so I'm going to try to pinch it to hold at least, keep the stone from bouncing around. It won't come out of there. It's pretty solid. Yeah, that's not moving. Okay. I think we can embellish a little bit. On the copper. I'm just playing around here again. This is an experiment. What the rock will do if I try heating it up to anneal this copper. So I'm going to just see what I can do here. I do see that the edges where I folded it over, it pulled away from the steel. So either need to have a smaller hole and smaller copper tubing, or put in a bigger stone, and you have to size your stone to fit that. It actually loosened that stone a bit. So let's see what we can do to tighten that up. Well, it's solid. Just trying to round up some of those points.
I do consider this experiment a success. It is not without its lessons learned, however. First of all, to all you YouTubers that film your own work and don't have a camera person, my hat's off to you. It's one thing to forge, it's completely different to forge and film your own work and keep the camera on the work. I cut out lots of footage of my back of my hand or my shirt sleeve, so I spared you that. When I first drilled the hole in the piece of iron for the pedals, the copper tubing fit just perfectly. But after I finished forging it and shaping the pedals, the hole grew slightly. So I'd recommend doing all your forging and shaping first, and then drill your hole if you still can to fit that copper tubing. Otherwise you'll be reseating it numerous times, as I did. I would also wait to apply the patina. You need to be able to anneal the copper numerous times, and heating it would damage the patina, so I would do that step last. A heavier wall copper pipe is supposed to work better, and I'd like to try that. I really didn't have any problems with the thin wall pipe. It didn't split on me. I think keeping it annealed is probably a trick to saving that from splitting, but I have to go to a plumbing supply store to get that thicker wall that you can't get at a home center or hardware store locally. So the stone fits in this setting pretty nicely. I think if I'd pick out the stones to match the size of the flower petals and the copper tubing, you could come up with a much better looking setting. Getting all overall proportions and making it fit fit better. I'm curious about cutting the tubing down to look more like prongs and seeing how that look comes across. But the rounded tubing does look more like a flower, like the stone grew there. I hope you enjoyed watching all 3 parts of Stones and Iron, and thanks for watching.